Hey, what's up, everybody? Another episode of Campfire Conversations. I'm your host, as always, Steve Billington. And tonight's guest is Brandon Butler from Driftwood Outdoors. And I'm pretty stoked to have you on, man. This is like a dude who just started doing record business stuff, getting like Taylor Swift. That's what
No,
it's like for me to have you on. So I appreciate
that's
you
me.
coming on.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's been a few weeks or a month or more since I've been on a podcast after doing it every week for 6 years. So I had to make sure my equipment still worked, but it does, and I appreciate the opportunity.
I knew going in that your stuff was going to sound so much better than mine, but that is what I aspire to change to so shortly when I get settled in the new
Uh,
place is like the XLR mic and not using the AirPods, and like they do good, but there's just a different sound, man, with the good
yeah,
equipment.
I'm not a fan of this stand. It just kind of gets in the way. But if you get the Rogan, just I took pictures of Joe Rogan's studios sometimes and dream of having something similar. But he's got those mics on the stand right in front of your face instead
You
of
like
this.
that better?
Yeah, because this wonky thing, it's like in front of me.
I feel like
Everybody
with
wants
that,
a Columbia shirt.
I feel like with that, I would do the Howard Stern, where he's constantly like pulling it in, pushing it
Yeah.
away, pulling it in, pushing it away. He moves that thing non-stop. But it's funny. We were talking in the green room. I invited you to come on, and you were awesome to accept. And I hadn't actually heard the Driftwood podcast yet from March, which is a little embarrassing because I'm normally quicker than that. But where you guys decided to take a break, and the problem is, I went down the rabbit hole of Crime Junkie, and so I was binge listening to that. And then the other day, I was listening to the newest Meat Eater, and when it finished, I just let it grab the next thing. And so it grabbed Driftwood. And one of the first things you said was, it's not goodbye, or it's just like, see ya, next, or whatever it was. I'm paraphrasing, but it made me stop in my tracks. So I was working on my kayak trailer, and I stopped and I just started listening. And I was like, oh my God, this guy took a step back. And then here I am, like, hey, will you come on my podcast? And I
No, it's
suddenly felt
great.
so embarrassed. I was like, oh man, I put him out.
No, like we appreciate the opportunity to come on any podcasts, and not have to do all the work. so, yeah,
I like
It-
that whenever somebody invites me, I'm like, oh man, all I have to do is show up.
well, I don't want to pretend like all your listeners know what driftwood is. So, just a quick synopsis, I suppose. Back in 2006, I had moved back to Indiana, where I'm from originally, from Montana. And when I was in Montana, I was doing a master's degree at Gonzaga and really found that I enjoyed writing and did well with writing. So I kind of hatched this plan to start doing outdoor writing and got published in Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal and ended up moving back to Indiana to Bloomington, and they had an outdoor page in the newspaper. And growing up where I did, up by Valparaiso, Indiana, Crown Point, Indiana, there was always an outdoor column in the newspaper as a kid, and I'd read it, even when I was 10, 11, 12, get the update on how the fishing is on Lake Michigan this week. And so those guys were like heroes to me. And
Mhm.
I ended up going to the newspaper in Bloomington and saying, hey, you guys got this great outdoor page, but you don't have a fishing report. I would love to contribute a fishing report to the page. And I built this PowerPoint presentation. And mind you, I'm like 26, 27 right now, and walked in there and they are like, okay, great presentation. They stopped me halfway through. They're like, will you do it for free? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it for free. And now, like, I've even taught in the School of Natural Resources at Mizzou, and I talk about pivotal moments a lot. And you go through pivotal moments that you don't realize are pivotal until many
Mhm.
years later. And the decisions that you make can totally impact the course of your life.
Oh
And
yeah.
I believe that is one of the biggest pivotal moments in my life was when I just simply agreed to do this column for free. Um, I had to prove myself for maybe a month, 2 months, and then they started paying me like a whopping $25 a week or something. But I asked, like, can I can I sell this to other newspapers? And they said, sure. So I ended up self syndicating and I got into about 15 newspapers pretty quick and got to be friendly with the director of the Indiana DNR, Rob Carter, at the time. This is 2007, I think,
Hmm.
and ended up getting offered a job to go to work for the Indiana DNR. Had to turn it down at the time. I had two babies, like literally babies, like 2 and 1 years old, and couldn't take the pay cut from the evil pharmaceutical world that I was in to go to work for the DNR. But a year later, he came back and kind of combined a few jobs into being the governor's liaison to the department, staff writer of the state magazine, and doing some public affairs for the department. So I ended up getting to go to work, and that's when I really feel that my passion for writing was taken under the wing of an editor named Marty Benson, and for 2 years he really molded my passion into a skill. And now I haven't missed a week yet. I published my first newspaper column in September of '06, and I've published every week since. So a little over 20 years. And
Wow.
Anthony
That's a heck of a
Bourdain,
run.
yeah, man. And I'm letting it wind down, and it's winding down naturally as well. I think at my peak, I probably was running in over 30 newspapers a week and definitely been in 50 or so collectively over time. But today it's down to 10, maybe less than 10. I don't even know anymore because they're conglomerates. There might be three papers at this one, but I would say 75% of the newspapers that I used to write for don't exist anymore. So
Hmm.
it's like I joke that I showed up like to the bar when they started playing closing time for the last song. Like I got into the like outdoor writing party, everything was going like just raging, like holy shit, this is a fun party. And
And
then
then it's
like
like you don't have to go home, but you
yeah, I
can't
grabbed
stay
my
here.
first beer and then they turned the lights on. And they're like, everybody out. So
Well,
which
and
is
what's
cool.
funny
It's just
is
morphed into doing podcasts and stuff like we're doing right now. It evolves and it's ever changing.
it's funny how you talk about pivotal moment, and when you agree to do it for free, that's cool. But when you get that first, I gotta imagine. I'm not a writer, but like I can appreciate the art mindset there. When you get that first $25 payment, do you
Yeah.
have any inkling of where it might go, or are you just like, how cool is it? I got $25 for the
Yeah.
words I put to paper.
No, it's super cool. Super cool. Looking back now, though, I'll read some of those articles, and I'm like, I can't believe somebody paid for these. It's like you were so raw and just getting started, and like watching yourself become better, and then as you get better, you make less money because the industry's dying.
Uh-huh.
So the like the tragedy of it all. But man, it's been fun. I've published. I'm 47 years old. I've published somewhere around 2,000 articles, 400 podcasts. I've got a national TV show out right now on RFD TV about conservation in agriculture and renewable energy called Prairie Prophets. I've done a lot of cool stuff, man, and recently got honored by the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Got inducted in
Yeah.
there for outdoor
In
writing and
20,
outdoor media.
in 2025, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and now it's like, and then of course the podcast is the biggest thing I've probably done, and it's just such a great story because how cool Shags is and how that friendship came to be. I was the
Mhm.
executive director of the Conservation Federation of Missouri. Shags was on the radio. We were both fighting this bad conservation policy, but I was like doing it in the Capitol and he was doing it by like trolling politicians on the radio. And
Yeah, that's
uh,
my kind of guy right there.
dude, it was great. Like the stories are classic. Like he's asking him like, why do you hate Missouri? He's calling him at like 4 a.m. and pretending like nobody will answer his calls. And it was so good. So I finally said to somebody, I'm like, hey, I need to meet this guy, and we got set up over chicken wings at Shiloh's in Columbia and few beers. And I worked on him for a couple of years to do the podcast. And I'm like,
No
look, dude,
kidding.
oh yeah, because I was doing one at the Conservation Federation. So I started the Conservation Federation podcast in 2016. So I feel like I was, pretty ahead of the game. I mean, you had Rogan out there. Ranella had just kind of started. It
Hmm.
was, it was early in the podcast game. Um, and then I finally convinced him, like, with his radio expertise. I mean, the guy's a great radio personality, but he's also
Hmm.
really good at the editing and the behind the scenes stuff. He's really talented at that. I had the connections, the opportunity to bring some money to the table and the guests. So it was just a really, really good match. And at the time we were both going pretty hard, like partying and I built the cabin down in the Ozarks and we had a hell of a run. And then towards the end it became much more like work. We both got married. Um, his career's going really well. I became the CEO of a nonprofit, like that takes some time each
Oh
week.
yeah, just a little bit.
Um, yeah, so it just kind of became like something we had to do, and I think we just both needed to step away, and I'm glad we did. I think we're both enjoying it. To be honest, we're not talking that much. We spent 6 years talking every week, so I hope he's having a good day. I don't know what he's doing, but we're going to Argentina in September. See if we do anything together moving forward. If we do things individually, but I'm just really proud of what we were able to collectively do in creating this community in Driftwood and kind of cross pollinating two friend groups like my Indiana homies and his Oregon guys, and everybody became like one big group. And like guys like Trey Dawson come around, and Trey brings you
Yeah.
around, and it just kind of like kept going, and I miss
Yeah.
that.
And
But I don't. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I just don't miss having to do something at 6 o'clock on Wednesday every week, like that's the
Yeah.
hard part.
I'm only like 13 episodes in, and I
Yeah.
get it. But like you meant see, you guys should be proud because there's like this Brandon Butler or Shags thread you could pull at and not even realize like how big and how far that spreads. So like the way you popped up on my radar is I'm the first to admit I'm a huge Ranella Meat Eater fanboy. I'm like the girls at a Taylor Swift concert, man. I love that guy. And so the first time I heard you was on one of his podcasts. You guys were like turkey hunting or something, and it was almost in passing. But then you guys did the episode about the cabin, and I always say the cabin burning down, but that's not even an accurate description because it was arson and horrible and tragic. But that story sucked me in, and that's what got me listening to Driftwood Outdoors. And it was like this small little thing where I knew the name Brandon Butler, and then all of a sudden I became exposed to Shags, and I was like, wait a minute, they're here in Missouri. And the next thing I know, Trey is like, hey, I'm going to be on Driftwood Outdoors. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to be on Driftwood Outdoors? Like the one with Brandon Butler and Shaggy? He's like, yeah, man. And I'm like, what? Like, how did that even become a thing? And I was so jealous. And I was like, hey, when you go on there, tell him Steve from Missouri says hi and that Ranella's awesome. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, I'll be in the comments section. I'll be listening to that one. And it was such a great
Yeah.
episode, but it's weird how that comes around. Like, I was just realizing you guys were even from here, other than having the cabin here. And then one of my buddies is on there telling his story about recovery. And like, you guys together are just really good. And you're both very good on the air with the interviewing, the way you pull stuff out. And I think everybody who is a fan will be sad that it's not necessarily coming to an end possibly but slowing down, but you guys have such a catalog. That's what's interesting is there's somebody who's going to hear it for the first time tomorrow, the day after, a year from now, and they're going to start down that path like we all do with a lot of podcasts where they just scroll all the way back to the beginning, and by the time they get to that episode they're going to be so emotionally invested they're going to be like, I can't believe it's over.
Well, I appreciate that. That's kind of you to say. We did 340 episodes. Uh, what's fun about it, man, is like I'm proud of the work that we did,
Hmm.
but to be like transparent and honest, I'm more proud of like the way we evolved as people. And I think, that many hours long conversations with folks. I mean, it opens your eyes to so many different perspectives. And you take Trey, for example. I know you guys are close.
Hmm.
I call him a friend. I think he would say we're friends, but we're acquaintances, you know. But I just respect this guy so much. He was in prison, like prison. He wasn't in like the
Yeah.
county jail. And man, he came out the way you're supposed to come out, like determined to be better, determined to get it right, very committed to the
Mhm.
Lord,
And about to
just
get married to a
about to get
woman who's also
married,
committed to the Lord.
like very determined to be like a good member of society. And I have
Hmm.
so much respect for that, and so much respect for people that can turn it around. You know, like I had some tough times, man, after the cabin burned down and getting divorced and like all of it, you know,
Hmm.
and you're like one mistake away from tragedy. And thank God, like nothing happened to me, but somehow Trey went too far and he could have stayed there, but
Oh yeah.
completely reversed it and came back. And I like the fact that our podcast, I feel, is more about people than it is about the outdoors. There's just some kind of connectivity to the outdoors. So we had many podcasts about mental health and physical health. You know, we talked a lot about Shags losing his father and taking care of yourself better. Shags had his stroke. We were very like transparent with that.
And those were some
Like,
very powerful episodes.
yeah,
There was a moment when you guys first started getting into the thing about the stroke. I was out fishing. I was in my kayak on Mark Twain Lake, and I just set my pole down and I just sat back in the seat because it was just such a very real conversation and such an emotional thing. And I just like I didn't even fish while I listened to it. I just sat there enjoying the sights and everything, and just listening to him tell that story.
dude, it was scary, man. Like it was a real stroke. Shags is a year older than me, not even a whole year. He's so I don't know if he's 47 or 48 right now, but you know, this is 2 or 3 years ago that he no, maybe more than that even. I don't know. Time crushes on me, man. But he had a stroke, like, and he was in the hospital. Thank God Savannah was able to get home and get him there, like found him and got him there. And Savannah, his wife, and me and two other friends had to kind of do some NCIS work to figure out like when this would have happened to determine if we could tell the doctors to give him the clot buster medicine or not. And we're
Hmm.
having conversations. He just can't talk. And I finally was like, you can understand us, right? And he's nodding his head. And I'm like, but you just can't speak. And I mean, we're in the emergency room and he's like, yes, you know, and I was like, well, write it down. It was like a
Yeah.
light bulb went off. And then I put the pencil in his like hand and he couldn't write. And that's when he like kind of got emotional. And then we collectively were like, do you want it? And he's like, yeah. So we just, you know, give it to him. And I think the fear there is after you have a stroke, that clog is in your artery. And if it's already hardened too much, that medicine can kind of like blow it up.
Hmm.
And but thank God it worked for him. Like the modern advancements in medicines paid off there because, you know, by the grace of God, he walked out of the hospital 4 days later, and we got back to podcasting pretty quick. And today you would never know. And now he's working so hard, like on his health, and he goes to the gym every day, and his body fat is way down. Somewhere along the way, I got sober. I've been sober for 3 years now. And I mean, this started off with him yelling at me for the ice clanking in my glass and my whiskey glass while we were doing every podcast. And
He
we,
brought that
we
up on the last episode like
yeah, we
twice.
went from that to like seriously like being health nerds and sober. And so it's like
And
the
it's something to
evolution.
be proud of, man. You've done so
Yeah.
good.
And Trey's like an inspiration for that, you know, to see that
He
guy
is.
and so many others like him. So we had people like that on, but we also had Bill Dance on. Um, Al Linder has always been kind of my hero, the founder of In Fisherman, and
Hmm.
you know, just to sit down and talk to those guys. We podcasted from inside the governor's office. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was a cool run. And I'll tell you this, like being in the outdoor media and taking it serious and being in like a lot of outdoor media groups, like organizations, Hoosier Outdoor Riders, Professional Outdoor Media, Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Riders, Missouri Outdoor Communicators. And I've been president of 3 of those groups. So I've invested in them. You get to know a lot of these old timers. And, you know, I guess I've graduated from college 3 times now, and I've learned nothing. Like I don't know any of my I don't like I mean I learned that I can get through anything is basically what I learned, but I learned more from these old timers just observing them than I ever learned in a classroom. And I want to age with grace. Like I want to see my career peak long before the end, because I watch some of these guys now like in their 70s pushing 80 on social media, desperate for attention and likes. And, you know, it's just like, man,
I
I
could
don't
think of a
ever,
Missouri angler like that.
oh yeah, a couple, right? And,
Yeah.
I just don't want to be there. So for us to have the strength to stop, I think is pretty cool, because it's like we both just said, you know, we just got to, it's either run its course or it's got to be reset. You know, like the old Nintendos, you just hit
Mhm.
reset, start again. Um,
And
so we'll,
it's impressive to have like the awareness and discipline to do that,
yeah,
because once you guys reached a point where like the audience is there, like nobody's asking you to stop. They, if anything, they want more. And to have the awareness to know that it's the right thing for you and the right thing for the product and all that, and then make that decision. I can't even imagine the gravity of making the choice to walk away.
yeah. I mean, man, you know, like we said, we talk a lot about mental health and stuff. And dude, I grew up like Gary, Indiana, blue collar construction. It was my dad's birthday yesterday. He turned 74, and my oldest daughter graduated from Mizzou. And when I say yesterday, that was
I
May
saw that.
18th. I don't know
Yeah.
when this will air, but like on May 17th, my oldest kid graduated from Mizzou, and man, I couldn't be any more proud of her, you know.
You could tell in the photos how proud you were, man. And my
Well,
daughter's starting her freshman year of high school, so like
yeah.
seeing you with your daughter graduating college, it resonated with me.
I've had them on my own for the last 4 years. Like after the divorce, they came with me, and
Mhm.
I mean, been a solo dad. I had to change my career. I walked away from a company that I loved. I had just co-written an $80 million grant and received it from the government to do this monumental renewable energy work, and I had an opportunity to take care of my kids, and I chose that and became the CEO of this local nonprofit instead. And I still go to counseling. I feel like I'm in the best place I've ever been mentally and happiness wise. Like I'm happier now than I think I've ever been, because my kids are both just doing so well. And I'm recently remarried, like 6 months now, to just my soulmate, like the coolest person I've ever been around. Like I could spend every day with her, and it's hard not to spend every day with her. So it's like I don't know, like I showed up at counseling this morning. I go like every couple weeks at least, and I was like, I don't really know what we're gonna talk about today. And then an hour later, you haven't stopped talking yet, but it's mostly
Mhm.
about like good things now and decisions that I got to make, like choosing between multiple good things. But going to the counseling, I mean, dude, that just it changed my life, you know, and it led to some big decisions like sobriety. And you know, I joke though that not all counselors are the same. You got to, it's like dating or
Mhm.
anything. You got to find the one that works for you. Like I went to a few before this one, and I kind of feel like it was Goodwill Hunting, where I just kind of like messed with them to see, like feeling them out. And, uh, but then I found the right one, and we just clicked, and she, you know, she really keeps me on the path. And so I've had to face a lot of loss, man, like in the last 6 years, from having my dream built hand built cabin with all my friends pouring their heart and soul into it, burned down by pieces of shit, to
Hmm.
losing my home and every other thing I had in the divorce a month later. Like going, like there, I don't even want to get into the why, but like within a month of the cabin burning down, I basically my hand was forced, and I had to leave my home and my kids, and it was a really sticky time period with my kids. They had to kind of see for themselves like what was going on, and
Hmm.
everybody kept telling me, be patient, and I'm a fighter, dude. Like I'm not patient, like let's go. And learning to not be that way and to trust God, and which is also pretty new for me, like it's always kind of been there, but it's like for the first time in my life, the last couple of years, like the blessings are too many to ignore, and
Yep.
gratitude is needed, and I'm trying to express it. So like just so many changes all happened at once, from losing both of my homes, my kids, my money, like all of it, to then them coming back to me and having this chance to do what I always dreamed of doing as a father, and having to change careers, and doing the podcast through all of it. It's crazy that like that period of my life is documented. And I
Yeah.
was, I was in a dark ass place for a long time. And, but man, coming out of it was just amazing. And it was those friends and the community that, gave me strength, like people talk about, feeling the strength of others or feeling the hand of God. And I always felt like that had kind of eluded me until that cabin situation happened. And man, oh man, like the outpouring of support and like positive energy sent my way. Like there's no denying that stuff is real. Like that amount of like thought and care and prayer, like all directed at me, it just changed me forever.
Yeah. There's a vulnerability to the microphone, for anybody listening that like hasn't created content or done a podcast. There's an interesting thing where before you step in front of a camera or microphone for the first time, you have this vision of yourself and how that's going to go, and the parts of you that you're going to let it see. And then you realize that as that video runs or as that microphone runs, slowly but surely, things about yourself that you might not even be aware of come out. Um, and it was very prevalent and obvious with the cabin situation, because like you said, the cabin, the divorce, like any one of those things on its own could break somebody. And anybody who knows about the cabin and the work that went into it, I mean, it was a symbol for a lot of good things. And I took it, almost listening to the story of the loss, as it was like this anchor and this safe place. So when things were bad, it was a good anchor. And then you described very accurately, those pieces of shit come along and they literally took that away. And that in itself is enough of an emotional break. And my daughter, goes to counseling. And when she first started it, I told her, because I don't, but I get it and really should and have over the course of my life. But I told her, I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're happy, sad, life is going well, life isn't going well. Every single person on the planet can benefit from counseling. Like there, it's just such a healthy thing. And like you said, that hand of God, that support, I struggled with that too. I didn't grow up in like a religious house at all. And when those examples would present themselves, the mistake that, and it's not a mistake, but what people would do that would turn me off to it is they'd be like, well, that's God, or, God has your back. And it would immediately make me think like, it shut me down to it almost. And then, just like you said, those blessings just become too much. Um, During COVID, I lost my job as a manager for a farm store. I had gotten out of law enforcement, got that job, was excelling at it, didn't agree with what happened whatsoever. And then because of COVID, they stuck me on that unemployment while I'm looking for a job. And Some money was coming in that otherwise wouldn't have been coming in, and I started the YouTube. But what it ultimately led to was the job side of it put me in the career that I'm in now, and that's where I met my fiance. My wedding is next Saturday, the 30th, so just over a week from now. The content led me to people like Trey and other kayak anglers and conversations like these, and it was this dark period of my life. And then, as you don't see it right away, man, but that job bringing me my fiance and just all the other stuff, like eventually you step back and you're like, man, that was a minute, but God had a plan, even if it seemed to really suck while it was happening.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure. Like yeah, I had after counseling today, and I'm like I'll tell you, like one of the things I told her, like I have this painting in my house that was my grandfather's. I love it. It's if this house was on fire, it'd be one of the first things I grab to try to save. It's a Indian sitting in the prairie with this blanket wrapped around him, and it's real dark. And I think forever I've perceived this painting as if this Indian has gone out on his, last venture to sit down and die somewhere. You hear that was like something they did, and like when it was the end, they would just go sit down until they keeled over. But my perspective on it is like recently changed, and I look at that guy now in that painting, and it feels like the war is over, and he's just kind of catching his breath, and he's out in this prairie, he's wrapped in this blanket, he's old, he's weathered, and I think I've kind of turned that into like where I'm at. Like I'm catching my breath. Like the war is over. Like I've won. Like no matter how I cut the cake, like the blessings that I have in my life right now, like I have won. Like I could die tomorrow and it would have been a great life, and a life that I would be thankful for. The part that I appreciate is the sitting there, catching my breath, knowing that the war is over, but having the perspective that there could be the next war party over that hill in the back on the horizon, so you don't know what's coming. But what's crazy, like in the painting, in my own mind right now, I just don't really see a path forward for the first time. Like I've been hustling my whole life, like trying to get somewhere, trying to achieve the next thing, trying to win some award, trying to get the promotion, trying to like better myself somehow. And all I want to do now is like just sit down, like, and hang out with my wife and admire my kids. And it's a weird place for like a hard charging person to try to like sit in peace, because I've never had it before. And is this your first marriage?
It is. I'm
Yeah.
41, and I've never even been
Yeah. Well,
engaged before.
congratulations. I mean, my first marriage, and I'll take big part of the blame, because I know she felt the same way, dude, but it felt like prison. It literally felt like prison. And getting out of that, I always tell people it was like Red in the Shawshank Redemption. Like when he gets out and they slam the gate behind him, and you're scared. Like you don't know. Like the world has changed so much, and you don't know what's out there. You just know you're not going back in there, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not going back in there. Like whatever's out here, I'll take, I'll face, I'll deal with. I ain't going back in there though. And I've been dating my wife for 5 years. I did everything I could to drive her away. Like I got depressed. I sat at home and drank alone, like all of it. And she was there for me. And we ended up breaking up. Like, and we never like even had a conversation. Like it just winded down to where we just stopped. And I didn't go to her house one day, and she didn't come to my house one day. And then that turned into like months, 4 or 5 months. And she dated another guy. I dated another woman. And then I went to Africa, and man, I had this like awakening, like this, and it had been building, but this realization that like this woman loves me, and I'm just not used to that. Like
Hmm.
it's a special thing. And I came back from Africa and made my play to get her back, swearing that if I ever could, I'd never let her go again. And that was in 2023, and we got married in 2025. So definitely put the time in. It wasn't like any kind of rush decision, you know.
Right.
It was a process, but we've ended up in such a good place, and it's it's the best thing I've ever done, man. So I wish you that as well. I wish you all the happiness, and if you're truly marrying your best friend like I
I
did,
am. Yeah.
it's the best thing in the world, man. And what's crazy is my dad and I were having this conversation last night. We were sitting, and my dad and I love my dad, but he's like, I always say he's like George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. You know, he got stuck with the old building and loan. He's, you know, everybody loves my dad, but he's not a man of many words. There weren't a lot of hugs. It wasn't very emotional growing up, you know.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about that kind of stuff and like happiness. And it was cool to have my dad like so happy that I was happy. And I said, look, you know, no offense, okay, but I didn't have really good examples around me as a kid, you know? I mean, honestly, as challenging as my mom and dad's marriage was, and they're still married after like 54 years, either one of them could have thrown in the towel. It was the best one of like my aunts and uncles and my grandparents and everything. Like, I just thought marriage was supposed to be miserable. Like, it's just all I ever saw. And then we owned a construction company. So, like, I told my dad, you sent me out in a van all summer long at 12 with a guy named Doobie. Doobie was driving. You know, like these guys are like giving me condoms and cigarettes, and like, you know, I'm 12
Great
with a
life advice, I'm sure.
oh, just amazing life advice. Like we're talking like some real rocket scientists here, you know, and there were some great guys as well. But like just lessons you shouldn't have gotten. So like I went into marriage just thinking it's just like a jail sentence we all got to endure. And it felt
Hmm.
like it for a long time. But this go around, man, it's like, damn, if this is what it's supposed to be like, then I understand why people do it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm so glad I waited because like I wouldn't want to be married to the younger version of myself, even
oh,
the version of myself from like 10 years ago. And my one of my friends pointed out a couple weeks ago something about, yeah, you know, marriage settles you down, you know, whatever. And I just said to him, like, dude, I'm me. I'm always just me. And he's like, yeah, but you're not the same you were when you met Kelly. And I was like, nah. I was like, I
yeah.
haven't changed. And he's like, no, 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 dude. Like, you don't even see it. Like, everybody knew once Kelly and I started dating. They're like, "Yup, that's something different." I mean, that girl is my best friend. She's got my back, and you know, I've never been more sure of something like in my life. And it's interesting you mentioned your dad and the example because like my parents were divorced, and neither one of them as far as relationships go, were great examples. So like I was 9 when they split, and I had a stepmom and a stepdad in pretty short order. And I'm, you know, I stepdad total piece of shit. Not my stepdad now, but my first stepdad, and my stepmom wonderful. But I'm fairly certain that both of those started before the divorce and mutually contributed. But like my dad was very big on do as I say, not as I do. So like I knew my dad would be up to shenanigans, but he would be like, you know, you respect women and do X, Y, Z. And next weekend, when he comes to town from Florida, this is actually be the first time I've seen my dad in 21 years, I want to say.
Whoa.
And we didn't have a relationship. A couple of years ago, we started the whole, you know, safe relationship where like I could text him if I was trying to figure out something with the car, you know, those safe conversations. And he was the one to reach out when I sent the wedding invite, and I thought he was going to reach out to be like, "Yeah, I'm not going to make it because you pissed me off with this, and this," you know, 20 years ago. And it was more like, "Listen, I have a granddaughter. I don't know. I don't have a relationship with you. That all needs to be fixed. Life is short. And he's like, you know what? All that stuff he's like, that's a lifetime ago. He's like, neither of us are like the same people. And so it's really cool that I'm going to see him for the first time in 20 something years. Because if we would have seen each other 15 years ago, it wouldn't have gone the same.
Mm.
And it's interesting how like you got to have that conversation with your dad, and now later in life I get to, hopefully for a considerable amount of time, none of us are getting younger, have this relationship with my dad, and see how he's come through things the same way that I've come through them. And it's an interesting chapter in life. And like you said, you got to, through your content and all that stuff, see how you grew as people. And I'm excited that I started content when I did, because some of my stuff from like 2020 still makes me cringe, but
Yeah.
I would not want to see the stuff from like 2003. That would be hard to watch.
You know what? I'm glad there's not. I'm glad there's no cell phone videos from like 1997 to 2001. Like that's what
You
I'm
are
glad.
wrong.
Like, oh, dude, like having these kids now, like my girls are 19 and 20, and like they live in like a surveillance state. They
Uh-huh.
don't do like, for those of you parents out there, especially those of you that may have a young daughter, like, and you grew and you're like me, like I was born in 79. So if you grew up in the 80s, 90s, and you're thinking, man, I don't want those kids to do what I did. Don't worry, man. They're not going to. They're not going to, because they're afraid at every moment that somebody is going to video them and put it on the internet. So the
Uh-huh.
stupid shit that we did, like that's just memory for a few folks. Like we didn't have to worry. Somebody might have had a Polaroid, but like what a shitty way to be a kid, to know that like
Yeah.
every mistake you can possibly make could be turned into content online for everyone to witness. And what I have
Yeah.
found, surprisingly, is that kids are better today than they were when we were growing up because of that. So I don't think they have the life experience. I don't think they have like the gumption and the grit that we had
Thank
growing
God.
up, but they definitely don't do as many nutty things as me and my friends did, because it lives forever. Like our fleeting moments are now their forever moments, and it's
Yeah.
unfair. It's
For
unfair to
for us,
them.
it's a memory. For all of them, it's in the Facebook memories.
Right.
It's
Right.
like I can remember sneaking out at basically my daughter's age now and riding a BMX bike with my friends in the middle of the night, 15 miles to go
Yeah.
over to this girl's house, and drunkenly, like a car would come up and you're like, oh God, so you'd ride into the woods, and drunkenly steering my bike into the woods and going off a 15-foot culvert
Oh my
and
God.
landing in a few inches of water. I'm just on my back, struggling to breathe, like that abdominal, like wrenching. Thank God there's no video of somebody hanging over the culvert with a flashlight. Like, dude, you okay? And it's just out there forever for my kid to
Yeah.
watch. It's just in here. But if she
Yeah.
were to go do that, it would live in the Snapchat memories, the Facebook memories, and you know, oh
Yeah, but
God,
her phone would tell you where she is. You just look at her location. Like in seventh grade, me and
it's
some
true.
buddies pulled like a stand by me and we camped out. We walked like 5 miles to the subdivision to teepee all these houses, and then we walked back in the middle of the night. Like we were like 11, Yeah, but here we still are all alive. So the helicopter parenting isn't really necessary either.
Or like when you're riding down the interstate in a camper, like an RV, and somebody takes a pizza box and on it they write "Help, we've been kidnapped," and they stick it up in the back window. That was a real funny joke in the '90s when Dad got pulled over. These days, that would not fly. It
Right.
didn't really fly then, but it wasn't as bad as it would be today.
That's funny. Well, are we supposed to talk about the outdoors, or did I take us
Honest,
down? Did I take us down like a rabbit hole here?
No, I think that was perfect. The what I came up with this format for the campfire conversation, it's kind of like what you said with Driftwood, how it's segmented around the common theme of the outdoors. That's kind of what brings everybody together. But your podcasts went all different directions. And what got me wanting to do this one is I went to a kayak tournament years ago with my buddy. It was the first time either one of us fished in a tournament, and we were sitting at Truman Lake. We were in it wasn't Bucksall campground. It might have been Bucksall. We were in one of the campgrounds and we're sitting around the fire just BSing. And when I went back and edited the video, I had the camera running in the campsite without even thinking about it. And it was some of like my favorite footage, and a lot of it never even got posted because it's just hanging out around the fire. Like fishing put us there, but the conversations that happened around the campfire had nothing to do with it. And that's what kind of put this seed in my head. And for years, I said I was going to do this podcast. And then last fall, I was at Lake of the Ozarks for a fishing tournament, and I was sitting there with Marty Hughes and Josh Booth and Noah Witten and Trey, and some other people. We're just sitting around the kitchen table, just BSing. And I was like, "See, this is the deal." I said, "If I would have started this podcast a year ago, I'd be sitting here right now with a Rode and a couple of microphones, and we would just be talking, and it would just get recorded, and then some of it might get trimmed, but it would just be like this very genuine sitting around the table conversation." So it's about the outdoors, and all the notes I wrote down about the outdoors and your accomplishments and stuff, all of that pales in comparison to the last 46 minutes and the
Yeah.
conversation we just had, man.
Well, I
That was
appreciate it.
awesome.
Yeah, a couple
And
things to touch on outdoors wise though. Like one thing that I'm doing right now that I'm really excited about, and I guess I still knock out the column every week, but not having to do the podcast, and it just gives me some more time to invest in some projects that I've put off for a long time. But
mhm,
I realized one day that I had hunted like maybe half the states. I was like, man, somebody's like, how many states have you hunted in? I started adding them up, and this is 10 years ago or something, but started adding them up, and I was like, yeah, this many, maybe 20 or something. And they're like, yeah, well, you're pretty young. You should try to do them all. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I should. But if I do that, then I got to put some like parameters on it. So I created
mhm.
this quest called 50 in 50 by 50, a hunter's quest to experience America. So I got to successfully hunt every state by the time I turn 50. And it can be any species. There's, of course, no trophy aspect to it because I don't really believe in that. And yeah, it's just been amazing. So I leave. This is Tuesday. I leave Saturday for New Hampshire, flying into Concord and just meeting a guy that I've never met before. He's the regional director for NWTF in New England, and
Nice.
we're going turkey hunting. So I've told everybody it's very much like what Anthony Bourdain did. Like you say you're a Ranella geek, like I'm a Bourdain
Yeah.
geek. Like he's my guy. Like that's people are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like Anthony Bourdain. And
As I say, I don't even think
um,
Ranella's hit all 50, and definitely not before he was 50, I don't think.
no, and I beat him to the World Slam too. I've got him on the phone.
Oh,
So Steve and I, yeah, I can get into that too. But like, how much I admire him and what he's done and how much he's earned it. But with Bourdain, everything that he does is about connecting to people and places, and food is just the vehicle he uses to get to those people. So I'm doing the
mhm.
same thing with hunting. Like this isn't a quest about hunting. It's a quest about people and places. And hunting is just the connectivity that I use to experience all these different people and places. So I've done alligators in Louisiana, moose in Montana, quail along the border wall in Arizona. I got a Sika deer on an island where I won't tell you. Uh,
That's
duck,
cool though.
ducks in the Chesapeake Bay,
Have you hunted
squirrels.
over the Chesapeake?
Well, yeah, I just did this body booting deal in Maryland, in Havre de Grace, Maryland, with a famous decoy carver named Joey Job. And that's why I wanted to go there, was to meet Joey and see the decoy carving museum and this old tradition they call body booting. They put you in like a dry suit and you have to stand on the bottom. Like you can't be in a boat, you can't stand on a block, you can't sit in a chair or a stool. You just
Mhm.
got to stand out there all day long behind these swiveling boxes. And it's just like we killed 19 ducks and I think it was 11 different species. It was amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's like I've got I've got 11 states to go, but I've got it planned to where it's very doable. Again, like try to get a turkey this coming weekend in New Hampshire. I had a flintlock rifle built for the flintlock season. The only flintlock season in the country is in Pennsylvania. So Kip Adams from the National Deer Association is having me out. I've got a plan to get back to Connecticut this fall and do something with the NSSF, the National Shooting Sports Foundation guys.
Hmm.
Probably the most surprising place I've been. I get that question a lot. Like what blew your mind? Martha's Vineyard. I killed a turkey on Martha's Vineyard. And dude, I thought I was gonna be like turkey hunting out of a Bentley. Like I thought I was going to Beverly Hills on an East Coast island. Not at all. Like these are billionaires trying to pretend like they're us good old boys. Like all the dirt roads, all the houses are like wood cedar shake. Now they cost $5 million, but
Right.
they all look the same. Like Martha's Vineyard was amazing. Couldn't
It's an
believe how
interesting place, man.
yeah, couldn't believe how much I loved it. And they killed in the county, which is like Cape Cod
Hmm.
and Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, like all that. In 2016, they killed one turkey in the county. In
Holy
2020,
cow.
in 2024, they killed 25 in the county. And I went out there, I killed one. My buddy Johnny Graham killed one, and the environmental director for the island killed one. And that was both of them getting their first Martha's Vineyard turkeys. And Brett, it was his first turkey ever. Like they got
Oh,
signed.
wow.
It's like going to Yellowstone and like the don't feed the bison signs. They like don't mess with the turkeys signs or wild animals. So if they killed 25 in 2024 and we added 3 in 2025, I love the fact that I added a 10% kill ratio to an entire county harvest by simply showing up in their state. Like, so that
It's
was,
pretty awesome. That's a
yeah,
cool
that was,
story.
yeah, it's been amazing. So that's happening, working on that book. And then a lot of people have asked me to kind of put like a conglomerate book together of old articles and stuff. And I've always kind of felt like, and I don't want to insult any of my friends that do it, but I've always kind of felt like that was the easy way, like to put a book together. And I
Hmm.
didn't want to do that for my first book, but here I am doing it because Anthony Bourdain just came out with the Anthony Bourdain Reader, where they combined all of his articles and stuff, and I loved it. So I'm doing a 20-year anthology of Driftwood Outdoors. So it'd be my first book, and me and ChatGPT are working real hard on it right now. Uh, with like taking the old articles and formatting them in a new format to match a chapter. And dude, it's amazing that you can take like a photo and upload it and have it turned into a pencil sketch in 10 seconds. And so I'm
Well,
working on that, the 20-year anthology of Driftwood Outdoors.
AI is such a like people love to hate on AI. They like to be like everything they see on the internet's AI. AI is evil. But as somebody who like creates content, especially you have this massive library. ATI AI is such a powerful tool for not only just going through the content. Like you can tell it everything I've done that has this theme to it. Bring it to me. Help me rework it. Like it's such a great tool to help manage the content and help get you to that point. Like, think about when you're going out on these trips and knocking these things off the checklist, how much easier it is to do that project alongside when you don't have to do every tedious little thing involved that the AI can help do.
Dude, it's such a double-edged sword. Uh, like try explaining AI to your 70-year-old father who doesn't even know how to use email, right? And I'm like, come here, let me show you. Like, this is my center computer, then I got a screen on both sides, and I'm running Claude on one side and I'm running Chat GPT on the other side. But I also know what I'm doing. Like I
Hmm.
know the danger of the data centers and what they're going to do to our grid and what they're doing to our landscape. And it's just like one of those things, man, where you remember Return of the Jedi when Lando Calrissian falls into like that pit and they're off the
Yep.
ships on Jabba's like ship and he's getting like dragged down in there. I feel like that's AI doing that to humanity. Like they're just dragging us down in,
Uh
and
huh.
maybe we're like creating our own demise. But
I
you
saw
know, like
something on my Facebook
how do
time
you
hop.
how do you not do it? You can't. You have to do it to compete
Oh,
today.
100%. I use AI every day. And in my Facebook memories today, there was something, and my daughter has a Facebook account now. So, like, I'm more cognizant of the stuff that I share. And honestly, that started a few years ago when Kelly is like, if my mom's going to be on your Facebook, you got to like calm it down with some of the stuff you post. But the thing in my time hop was a picture of the old man from Futurama, and it said, "This is Meta AI," and it was the logo, and it said, "You can tell it anything," and he's like, "Tell it the fuck off." I remember when I shared that, and it makes me laugh every damn time. And it
Yeah.
like he's a double edged sword. I'm like, I use it every day, but that meme is hilarious, and I would love to tell Meta to fuck off on like a daily basis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I use it every day too, but the decision of like snapping your fingers and it all goes away would literally take me a millisecond to decide. A
Oh,
millisecond.
100%. I'd
Like
so
what?
much rather have the land and the
And,
resources.
and dude, we're like that. We're like the center of the hinge when everything turned, and in this world that we live in. Like you and I grew up when phones were still on the wall with long
Yeah.
curly cords. And now we're using AI platforms only 30 years later, like
Hmm.
where are we going to be 30 years from now? And my kids got me binging. I'm trying to watch better shows. So I'm watching like Friday Night Lights. I've never
Oh,
watched that
such a good
before.
show.
Oh, don't tell me anything. I'm
I
kind of in
won't.
the middle of season 2 right now. Like Landry's dad just burned the car. Like that's where I'm at. So I'm hooked. I'm
It's
in. But I told my kids, I
Coach
hate
Taylor,
these.
somebody to admire, man.
Oh, I like me some Coach Taylor. I like Mrs. Taylor too.
Oh yeah,
She's
and
solid.
Julie, if we're being honest, but in the later seasons, no
Yeah,
creep.
Julie kind of sucked right now. Shouldn't have done Matt so dirty. Um, yeah, I like them all, man. Riggins is my guy.
Riggins is cool. Everybody needed a
Yeah,
Riggins in their life.
I might have been Riggins.
I was Tweeter from Varsity Blues, where he's like, "What the fuck is that?" He's looking down his pants.
uh, yeah, no, I'm watching that, and in season 1, there's no cell phones. Like I was telling my kid, hey,
Oh, I
look in the
never noticed that.
I was like, look in the crowd. Like everyone, like what is everyone doing? And she's like, I don't know. What are you talking about? Like, I was like, they're watching. Like
Yeah.
nobody is on their phone. Like when they're like nobody is filming the introduction. And that's what in my mind when I go back to like high school sports, high school football, basketball, like that was it. Like everybody was watching and you were engaged. Like nobody filmed it so they could like keep it on their phone and never watch it again. Right. It's just
I had that thought when I watched the MMA fights the other night because one of
yeah,
the fighters was coming out. I think it was Diaz, and he's walking down the tunnel. Everybody along it, he's like high fiving people. All you see is cell phones.
that's right.
They're all just like, "Oh my god, oh my god." Nobody's like in the
Oh,
moment.
Bill Burr had a joke one time, like, put your fucking phone down. Like, it's 500K right in front of your face. Like, what you're watching it through a screen and it's taking place like 20 feet in front of you. I went to a Bill Burr show and you had to put your phone in a bag and like couldn't take it in with you, which was
Yeah.
great. But like,
Artie Lang did a bit like that one time where he said, "Not that I look good in 4K or anything else." He's like, "But you go through all this work to make a DVD and everything else and be on TV, and people are watching this shit on this tiny little
yeah,
crappy cell phone video. And they're like, that joke sucks." I'm like, "You can't fucking hear half of it."
yeah, yeah. But it's like we lived it. Like that show came out in 2006. The iPhone came out in 2008, And so up until that period of time, it's like we talked about, we didn't live in a surveillance state. People were present, people were tuned in. You had your friends, you knew where everybody was by where the pile of bikes were in the yard,
Yep.
and I'd give anything to go back to that. And I'm proud of especially my younger daughter Anna, who's very like country rooted, and she's the same way. She's like, Dad, I wish I'd have been able to know life like that, the way you did. And I mean, I guess it'd be like being born in 1910 when cars started blowing up everywhere. You went from everyone had a horse and you moved slow and you didn't go far. And now everybody's driving around and same thing for us. Like to connect, you had to leave the house and now people don't. And now young
Yeah.
kids are in love with chatbots and it's just weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other weird. My daughter had started doing that. I had to shut that down. I'm like, this is weird. Um, but I can remember like it seems foreign, but I can remember leaving the house in the morning and not hearing from anybody all day. Like not even being able to hear from anybody. Like I leave the house and I'm at work. If my daughter's getting herself on the bus, I make sure she texts me like, "Hey, I'm on the bus." Because I'm afraid, like, stay at the end of the driveway, some creeper snatches her, and I don't know because I don't have her text me to tell me, "Hey, I'm on the bus."
Right. Right.
But my dad, like, we would jump on the BMX bikes and go ride 30 miles to a mall. People wouldn't even know where we were, or go get on the four wheeler and disappear
As
from the
it,
time the sun comes up till it's dark. And like our parents knew we were still alive when they could stand outside as it was getting dark and hear "Brr, brr, brr," coming through the woods because we were riding back home. And like it's interesting you say that because I have watched and rewatched Friday Night Lights probably 10 times. I love
whoa.
that show.
Oh, see, that's
And,
Sopranos for me, and I'm trying to change
yeah.
my mentality.
And all the time that I did that, I never noticed the thing about the cell phones. And I get retrained the mentality because I used to rewatch The Shield like on a
Mm.
loop, and I don't do that anymore. That's that
Yeah, they
show's a
have
little
cell phones. They
intense.
have cell phones in season two. Like my wife was Lauren. She was like, "Oh no, are you going to keep watching now?" I was like, "Yeah." They got flip phones in season two. They went straight from no phones to flip phones. They skipped the whole block phone thing. But
It's
yeah,
an
four
interesting
wheelers.
thing to pick up on though, because I never noticed that.
We had a four wheeler gang when I was a kid, and the back of my property was these abandoned railroad tracks. So they pulled the steel, but they left like the gravel road through the country. And
Hmm.
we would ride from Crown Point to Couts. It was 20 miles because this old timer would sell us dip at like 13 years old. And we'd ride 20 miles to buy a $2 can of Skull and then split it like four ways amongst us all. Like that's like we were like cowboys on four wheelers in 1990. It was fun.
I can remember hooking up. My dad made this little kayak trailer for me, and I'd hook it at like 9, 10 years old. I'd hook this thing to the back of my four wheeler, and I'd go ride. I grew up not too far from the Delaware Bay, and there were a lot of like bridges, like brackish water and stuff. We'd go crabbing. I'd take that kayak down there. I'd go put in crab bots, load up crabs and stuff. And then I would ride the four wheeler to the bait store and get Old Bay in a Ziploc bag for like 10 cents. And then I'd come home with all these crabs in a Ziploc baggie of Old Bay. And who knows if I had a fishing license, even my dad made sure that was taken care of. Like who even knew? But I just woke up, get on my four wheeler. I'm gonna go crabbing today. And I remember one time being just old enough that a buddy had a driver's license, and it was January and it was snowing, and I wanted to go kayak fishing for striper. So we shoved these three kayaks into the trunk of his Lincoln, whatever, like Continental, this big giant boat thing. And so three kayaks are sticking out the back. We're in jeans and like hoodies. It's snowing, and we're pushing them off the beach at Fortescue, New Jersey. We're like a mile out in the Delaware Bay fishing for striper in these sit inside kayaks with no life jackets, like a bunch
Mhm.
of jackasses. We
Yeah.
come pulling back in the driveway at the end of the day, and my dad looks at us and he goes, "Did you go sledding with the kayaks?" We're like, "No, we went down to Fortescue and went striper fishing." And he just looked at us and went, "You're all fucking idiots," and went in the house. There was no like, "Don't do that again. You could have drowned." And then later
Yeah.
he's like, "Did you guys catch anything?" It's just a whole different world, man.
Oh, dude, I don't do sharks, man. Like, oh, my kid's trying to convince me to move to Australia. She wants to move to Australia. She did like study abroad there. And I was like, there's no chance. I was pulling up like all the shark attacks this year. And just, I went to South Africa and like, man, like I love me some Great Lakes that look like oceans and don't have a single shark in them. Like, that's for some reason I got this phobia. I think it's because people took me to see Jaws when I was a baby. And I'm not getting in that water. Martha's Vineyard was crazy because that's where they filmed Jaws.
Uh huh.
everybody's jumping off this bridge, and I'm like, man, there ain't a chance in hell I'm jumping off that bridge.
See,
Yeah,
I went the other way with Jaws. I want to take my kayak down to Gulf Shores. All the years I lived in Florida, I never took the kayak shark fishing. I go ocean fishing. I just never hooked into anything other than like a sand shark. I wasn't targeting them. I want to catch a bull shark and a tiger shark in the kayak. Like I want to bring a bull shark up next to that thing that's at least half the length of the kayak. So like a 6 foot bull shark. I don't.
no,
I could deal with like a 1 foot tiger shark. I don't know how big I want to screw with those, but like I see these guys like catch like Robert Fields is a great example. His YouTube channel is all him catching big sharks in the kayak, and like he'll reach his hand down and unhook them, and just that dude's
mm,
insane. I don't want to do
nope.
all that, but I
Yeah.
would love to catch a shark from the kayak.
I've caught someone. I was out tuna fishing, like deep sea fishing. We go out for tuna and out of Venice, Louisiana. But dude, nope. I'm not messing with. I'm not skydiving. Death is coming, man. Like I'm not inviting it any sooner. Like I don't want. I don't want to give death any advantages. Like I'm gonna try to avoid that bitch as long as I can.
Yeah, see, I caught sharks from boats, but my running joke has always been to Kelly, like, listen, if a shark eats me while I'm out kayak fishing, if it happens, upload the video. Like, you ain't even got to edit it. If you get that SD card back, just stick it in and let YouTube do the rest, man. Just put it out there. I said, or give it to one of my content buddies. I'll edit it. I said, give it to Andrew Blair. He'll make sure it looks exactly like it's supposed to.
I was down when I was down in South Africa. We went one day. I shot a Cape buffalo, and we had a guide. I think his name was Patrick, and he runs a boat for filming Shark Week. He's like a captain that just takes them out in the bay, and they chum and they bring
Nice.
those great whites out. And they got one shark that they know very well. They call him Rolex because some dude was swimming, and they told him like, "Don't swim today. Like the sharks are acting funky. Like something's going on." And
Hmm.
sure enough, he went out swimming. Shark chomped them all up, and they like found his torso, but missing an arm. And he wore a Rolex on that arm every day. So they think the shark ate his arm with the Rolex on it, and now they just call that shark Rolex because they think there's
Oh,
a
that's funny.
they think there's a Rolex inside of it somewhere.
If a dude that messes or observes the sharks every day says, "Hey man, something's off,"
Yeah,
I'm not getting in the water. I don't even want to be in a boat at that point. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
nope. I'm not getting in the water past my knees anytime. So good luck to the rest of you.
Yeah, there was times in Florida you'd be barely knee deep, and you'd look down, and a bull shark would cruise by, and if you didn't look down, you'd never know he was there.
Well, shit, man. My parents live like half the year in Bradenton, like right at Santa Maria Island at the
Uh
mouth
huh.
of Tampa Bay. And they
Yep.
show like the choppers like going along the coast, and they'll be like, it's not a good day to swim. And there's like 2,000 sharks like in like a
Uh huh.
pack swimming. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you people? I went down there and got scuba certified. So I'd done my training here in Columbia, and I just needed to do my open water dive. So I went down to Florida, hung out with my parents, and called a shop. I'm like, hey, I just need to do my open water. Can we get that done? And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll go over here to Anna Maria Island. And I'm like, cool. And I knew there was a bunch of bull sharks around the Skyway Bridge, not the Skyway, that's Chicago. It's like the Skyline Bridge or whatever, that bridge that
Something like that. Yeah.
goes into St. Pete, and we're getting in the water right there, and it was murky, and it's a beach though. And he said, hey, if something big comes by you, don't freak out. It might be a manatee. And I was like, oh, that's
Hmm.
great. That's cool, man. And he goes, but it'll probably be a shark. And I was like, dude, no. Like, no. And so we stayed together. I stayed within like arm's length of him because you couldn't see anything. We got through that day, and I was like, I'm not doing that tomorrow. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, look, I found this place online. It's a scuba park. It's only like 45 minutes from here. He's like, can we go there? He's like, there's a lot of alligators there. And I was like, I don't give a shit about alligators, man. He's like, so you don't want to swim in the ocean where the sharks won't mess with you, but you want to go to a lake where the alligators will mess with you. And I was like, yes, yes, I will take my chances with an alligator. I am not messing with a shark.
See, I'd so much rather have a shark close enough that I have to touch its nose and push it away than have an alligator watching me from 50 feet away. Like
Yeah.
I alligators scare me more than sharks, and I don't know what it is. It might just be the fascination with the sharks, but I don't know. I'd rather have to push it away. I like Steve has Kimmy Warner on, and
Oh
she
yeah.
talks about like just sensing the shark, and she's like, you just gotta let that shark know who's in charge. And from here on the land, I'm like, yeah, I'm with her. Punch it in the face if you got to. You get me in that water, I'm not even gonna be breathing. Heart's gonna be pounding in my ears, and I'm gonna be like, gotta show the shark you're in charge. It's like, oh, I'm shitting my pants.
Yeah. I'll address the Ranella thing real quick, mostly just to say, thank you again to him. Like everybody that looks at the cabin stories online, you see a bunch of them come out of Meat Eater. And
Hmm.
way back in 2010 or 11, I moved to Columbia and became the marketing manager at Battenfeld Technologies, which is now American Outdoor Brands. So I had like 9 different product lines that were owned by Midway USA, and I was running that entire marketing department, and we sponsored shows and stuff like that. So I'd go to SHOT Show every year and go to the awards for the Outdoor Channel and Sportsman's Channel. And I had watched Meat Eater a couple of times. I'd even watched Steve's first show, The Wild Within, that was
Hmm.
on the Travel Channel for 1 year. And I knew who he was. And we were at the Hard Rock for the Sportsman's Channel show, and he was there. He actually won Best New Show in his first year with Meat Eater, but nobody knew him. Like he was just standing by himself. So I went over and started talking, and we put 2 and 2 together and grew up about an hour and a half apart. He was in Southwest Michigan, I was in Northwest Indiana, and just kind of got to know each other, sent him a bunch of shit, stayed in touch. Then we didn't talk for maybe 5 years. And then once the cabin was kind of under construction, he had been wanting to come hunt in Missouri. So I reached out, and him and Giannis came, and we turkey hunted. And Parker Hall came, and Parker ended up being the first episode of a TV season. I think it was maybe 7, where they
Yep.
squirrel hunted around here and
That's a
were on the
cool
river.
dude.
Oh, Parker's the best, man.
Yeah.
Like he's down in Florida again. He lives over by St. Augustine now, but yeah, that guy is cool. So him and I were sitting on this gravel bar back to back in front of my cabin along Sinking Creek. And these turkeys were roosted up on this bluff. And anybody that turkey hunts a lot, you hear like you can't get them to cross the fence, you can't get them to cross the river, whatever. And Parker starts calling so soft that I'm thinking, what is this fool doing, man? Like we're sitting next to like rushing water with 200 feet up this bluff, and dude, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. This turkey comes sailing over the river while all the mist is like rising up off of it. And he like comes down and he lands on this gravel bar. And Parker and I are back to back. And whoever gets the shot shoots, but
Hmm.
neither of us could get the shot. He was behind these cedar trees and just gobbling and gobbling and gobbling and gobbling. And it went on for, it seemed like an eternity until he moved out into this field. So now he's out in this field and I can see him. He's on private property that we can't hunt. And he's every time he gobbles, I could see his breath. So I
Oh man.
so Steve and Giannis are hunting elsewhere, and there was a couple other people there. And when we got back, we did the podcast with Steve, Giannis, me, and Parker, and we did 2 of them from that trip.
I
And
remember
I
those.
and I gave that description, and Steve goes, "Damn, man, like that's a beautiful description. Somebody should paint that." Well, then somebody did, and it became the tour poster for their first Meat Eater live tour. So somebody painted the steam breathing gobbler.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
so I've got these pictures of us all like in the cabin doing the podcast before there were even like, there was no insulation, there was no drywall up. Like we say cabin, but this was like a 2,500 square foot lodge with a loft and big 20-foot vaulted ceilings, stone fireplace. Like it was more like
If
a
I remember
lodge.
correctly, I think it was raining when you guys recorded that because you could just like,
Yeah.
I feel like you could just barely hear
Yeah.
something.
But above the window, the center window, I had that fan like done on a plaque with that poster framed, signed by Steve and Yana. So I had the steam breathing gobbler poster next to the steam breathing gobbler. And
That's so cool.
that's the kind of shit that burned up, like things
Hmm.
that you'll never get back. But
Yeah, you
you
never
know,
replace. Yeah,
so
at
we,
least the story and the memory is there.
for sure. And that's what I learned, dude. Like there were couches up in the loft that were my grandparents from like the 70s. And I had my grandparents' kitchen table and things that I would have never, ever been able to let go of. But they're gone and it wasn't my fault. And it feels very unencumbering. You know, it's like
Hmm.
I don't love my grandparents any less now that I don't have their kitchen table. Was it cool? Sure. Did I ever want to move it again? No. Would I have ever let it go? No. But now it's gone and I don't have the responsibility for these heirlooms that I felt I put it on myself, but
Right.
it's gone. So anyways, when the cabin burned down, Steve reached out and we did a few podcasts about it. And, he just was a good friend in that moment. But what's cool about him that people don't know is how hard he worked to get to where he is. He's like you. He
Hmm.
didn't get married until he was older. I don't know exactly how old he was, but 35-ish, and had his maybe a little younger. I don't know, but like he had kids later. I had my kids in my mid 20s. And when he wrote what I think is his best book, which is The Scavenger's Guide to Haute Cuisine, that's his first book. And it's
I
so
haven't
good.
read that one. I
It's
read
my
American Buffalo. That was the first one of his that I
Which
read.
is a phenomenal book too. But I love The Scavenger's Guide to Haute Cuisine. It's super cool. It's about him collecting all these different wild game, like enough to feed a Thanksgiving feast. And
Hmm.
he goes through the process of getting all this different stuff that he wants to cook from this like legendary cookbook. And it's hilarious. Like he's plucking baby pigeons out from under bridges and like it was raw, and he was sleeping on couches, like, just making it happen as like a dirty writer.
What's that
And
book called?
Scavenger's Guide to Haute Cuisine. And so it took a long time for him to get where he got. And what he's built is just amazing. And the guy deserves it. And it's interesting to watch a friend get so famous, like
I
I don't
bet.
we don't talk hardly ever anymore, but it's like, dude, he's busy talking to fucking Joe Rogan and whoever else, like giving Theo
Yeah.
Vaughn shit. Like, did you watch the Theo Vaughn
Oh my
episode?
god, I love that. When he was like putting
You
down the
don't know
turkey hunt.
me.
He's like, my favorite was when he was like, man, he's talking about turkey hunting. He's like, I just don't get it. And Steve's just staring at him. Just
Yeah.
the way he's looking at him. And
Yeah.
just shocking disbelief. He's like, what?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
The thing about Ranella, it's like you can tell when somebody's like built something and surrounded themselves with people who are there to like build something and surround themselves. Whereas Steve is surrounded by this very genuine group. Like guys like Cal, like you can't find a much more genuine guy than like Cal or Yanni. I became exposed to him when I started. I never hunted. I grew up around hunters, but I never hunted until like 2012, I think was when I picked up a bow. Matter of fact, short funny story. When I bought a PSE bow, having really no clue, I just knew I wanted to go deer hunting. I bought a PSE bow, some broadheads, a hunting license, and I shot that bow maybe 10 times, and it was all in the kill grouping. And I'm like, cool, I'm good. I didn't know anything about yardages or anything else. I went out to Muskegon, Michigan, put a tree stand way too high in a tree. The first deer I saw was a doe, double lung shot. It barely ran. I never had as much success after that moment because then I actually started trying to learn stuff. But I became exposed because as soon as I bought that bow, I was like, now I just have to watch stuff. And I found Meat Eater. And after just one episode of that, I went down the binge rabbit hole. It was when it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I became a big fan, but then I started listening to the podcast. And what happened for me with the Meat Eater thing is I didn't expect the impact that like those were going to have on my life. I became much more concerned about conservation and stuff listening to those guys. But what really happened was listening to Steve and Yanni and all them talk. I became a much better like parent, a much better angler, outdoorsman, like just a better human.
Mhm.
And that wasn't a byproduct that like I really expected. And their podcast became one of those things where even now, every single time a new one drops. So like Monday, I'm there, I'm playing it in the morning as soon as I get up. A new trivia comes out, even though I always suck at the trivia, I'm listening to it. And it
Dude,
just
I got to do the trivia in the studio. Like I've been on trivia, and I thought I'd go in there and smoke them. Like I'm good at trivia. Like I collect Trivial Pursuit games, and I choked. I choked bad. Like I don't remember. Giannis won. I don't remember how many I got, but it wasn't
the
what I
early
thought it was going to be.
the early trivia where Steve would get mad was the
Yeah.
best. Whether he was fighting with Spencer or other people, they'd be like, "Steve, do you have an answer?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got one. And if it's right, I got a big problem with it."
So, you said he surrounded himself with good people, and there's no doubt about that. Like Cal's a great guy. Like watching him take over BHA has been exciting. My friend
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Paddle Don just joined up on the Indiana board, which I'm proud of him for that. And you're right. He's surrounded by great people, but he's finally doing what I've dreamed of him doing for a long time, and that's the one-on-one kind of podcast. Like those
Hmm.
guys, when there was like six minions sitting around the table, all trying to get their voices heard and like overshadowing Steve, who is, I don't care who the guest is, I'm tuning in to listen to Steve.
Yeah,
And it just got frustrating when it felt like everybody had to eat,
yeah,
and now he built that beautiful studio, and it's like him and a guest. Just like Sean Ryan's probably my favorite podcaster. I love Sean
hmm,
Ryan, Missouri guy. But yeah, so I'm just so happy that it's like, oh, Steve and a guest now. I think that's the way it should be.
You know what it reminds me of? The him and the guest. I grew up in the Northeast, so I grew up listening to Howard Stern.
Yeah,
I've heard really up until he went completely remote. I kind of lost interest, but I think I've heard every episode a million times. Howard Stern. But what I liked about him is he's such a prophetic interviewer.
yeah.
He sits down with somebody and it's a way about the way he does it. He guides it. It's incredible. Steve has really come into that. He always
It's
had
taken a
it, but now
while.
that it's just him and one other person, he's good.
Yeah. So just so I don't sound like such a dick writer, I'll say something negative, and I think he's a shitty interviewer. I think he talks over his guests too much. I think it has gotten better. But again, like I just said, I tune in to listen to him, so it doesn't bother me. But I think I appreciate Sean Ryan because he asks really hard questions and then shuts up. You know,
Yeah,
and I think Ranella, like it would just be like, would you just let somebody finish their statement once, like just once, And I think he's grown into that more. But I mean, it was hard to listen to for a while, and then he's talking over people, and then like the seventh man on the bench who's somehow sitting at the table has to like say something that he thinks is funny, but turns out to be stupid, and it's like, come on, dude. So now,
Steve.
yeah, now that one-on-one thing, I like it a lot.
I hear Steve do that when he talks over the guests. I do it. I've noticed. I want to say this is the 14th episode, and it's in the last like two or three that I've tried to really get better about that because I'll go back and listen while I edit, and I'm just like, oh my god, shut up. So now when I listen to him, he'll be like, so tell me about this, and then before they can start talking, he's like, well, I can answer that, and then he tells them
Yeah,
about it, and
yeah,
I'm like, Steve, just shut up. So now I do it to myself. Steve, just shut up. And my favorite Ranella line, I say it to people all the time now. One of the episodes, I think it was when they were trying to figure out what one of the guys' kids was going to be named. He said, "Steves are a dying breed, man."
yeah. That's good. Now I've gotten to know Doug Duran. He's stayed at my house. I've stayed at his house. We've hung out quite a bit, and that's what we were talking about Driftwood early on. Is it builds this community of people, and there's different layers to the community. We're sitting here talking about it like it's our community, but
Hmm.
there are people kind of in that realm, and we built that with our unpaid pro staff and the jokes we had with those guys and stuff. But some of them guys that Steve, built around him, like Giannis. Giannis is such a great guy to have on the team because he doesn't want any of the glory. He's
No.
quiet and humble and kind and a great father and husband. Like, I admire him for that. Doug's just salt of the earth, like, down to
Hmm.
earth, share the land. It's not ours. It's just our turn kind of mentality. And
I know.
so
I
it's,
love that quote.
and Cal too, like Cal just, he cares about conservation as much or more than anybody I've ever met. So it's really cool. It's great. I was out in Bozeman a month or so ago and got to go to the store for this first time. That was neat too. So
I
just
bet that's an experience.
just happy for those guys, man. Like, just happy for them. Worked out, and we need that voice out there. And it's just cool that yeah, it's just cool that people have gravitated to them the way they have. Like, their demographics are not what anybody would expect. Like, Steve's audience is inner city people who are just amazed by the fact that there's somebody out there living this way.
Yeah.
It's not the tough guy driving a square body, K10 here in Missouri. It's some hipster in tight jeans in Chicago that's like, oh my God, did you see him eat an eyeball? It's like, yeah,
It's the New Jersey cat ladies, as he likes to say.
yeah, yeah. So it's neat. Like, he's done a good thing. So,
Yeah, you guys have too, man.
oh,
It's
thanks, man. Thank you.
you guys have definitely done, like, we can sit here and be like, yeah, Ranella and them, they've done great for conservation and they create stewards and stuff, but man, you guys have done the same thing and really did a good job of taking people with a like-minded, hobby and interest and stuff and really just making it about a lot more than that. And
When I first got started in outdoor writing, some people kind of tried taking me under their wing, and they're like, look, you're talented, you can really make a go of this, but you got to figure it out what you're going to specialize in. Like, you got to become the best kayak bass fishing writer in the country, or you have to become the best 410 turkey hunting writer in like, what is going to be your niche? And I said,
Mhm.
bullshit, man. Like, I'm way too ADHD for that. Like, there's no doing that. Like, I love it all. Like, ask me to go frog gigging tomorrow, turkey hunting the next day, crappie fishing after that, saltwater fishing after that, rabbit hunting after that. Like, I just want to do it all. Like, I can't get enough into my cup. So I'm really proud of the fact that I didn't listen to them. And did I make it? Like, is outdoor writing my career? No, but I never tried to make it that either. I tried to keep this as something I do for fun. So, like, when it got time to quit doing it, I could just quit doing it, and we did. But for those that are interested in doing something like what we're doing right now, like, just do it. And if it's good, an audience will come. You don't have to try to follow somebody else's blueprint. You don't have to be the best at one little niche. You can just talk about
Mhm.
whatever you want. You can have an outdoors show that you never talk about the outdoors, like us. Like,
Yeah.
so
One of the last ones that we did, we talked about Bigfoot and aliens and it's
dude,
I
Shags got
and
banned by an alien one time. He told that story a bunch.
and like, to your point, like, by not pigeonholing it into one thing and not having it be like the career, it's able to be something so much more genuine. Like, if it's the career, you have to worry about, do the sponsors I can get fit with what I'm going to talk about and all that other stuff, where, man, I just want to be able to hit the mic or the record button and just be me and just go with whatever I want to talk about at the moment, or what the right conversation for the guest is. Like, this right here, this is the kind of podcast I want.
Yeah, me too, dude. Me too. And like, again, it was never my job. I mean, I guess for 2 years I worked for the DNR For 5 years, I was the executive director of the Conservation Federation of Missouri. I put out a magazine every 2 months and did the podcast and made some films. But again, that wasn't my job. Like fighting policy and raising money was my job.
Right.
So it's been incredibly diverse. But I've enjoyed that. I enjoy being the host because I get to ask the questions that I want answers to. Like I love, like one, I love just random knowledge, but two, instead of Googling it, I'll just get the guy that knows the shit on my podcast and grill him for an hour and get all the information, like USDA
Hmm.
stuff, cover crop stuff, things that I'm very interested in, but not super like aware of. Like what is EQIP? What is, the Conservation Reserve Program? Like, let's just bring somebody on and have them explain it for an hour. So I was always able to like grab the knowledge out of it. And then financially speaking, like if I look back over the last 20 years and added up like the monthly newspaper column, invoices, the sponsorships for the podcast, the freelance magazine articles, I'm taking a rough guess here by just breaking it down and dividing it by 20 years, but I've probably made over $300,000, like
Hmm.
15 grand a year for 20 years or something like that on average. And that's not like you can't live on that, but I've bought a lot of cool shit that was
Hmm.
like it was like monopoly money. I had my job, but if I write another article, I can go on another trip, or I can buy another rod, or I can blow some money, get drunk and blow it all at the NWTF auction. Like so for anybody that's interested in doing it, like just do it with perspective. You're not gonna be Steve Rinella. Like I'm not gonna be Steve Rinella. You might be something equivalent, but you got to be yourself. And I'll never be Anthony Bourdain as much as I want to be. Like it's just, it just is what it is. And just start putting it out there like you're doing now, man. So proud of you for doing it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you coming on tonight. We've been going for an hour and a half, and
Went fast. Kind of
yeah,
makes me miss it.
it really did. I glanced up at one point. And I was like, "Holy crap!" 'Cause I know before we started, you're like, "How long do we go?" And I'm like, 45 to an hour. I won't keep you all night." And I looked up and realized it's been an hour 32, and I was like, "Man, that flew by." And
Yep.
man, it was a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
for we've had a couple people that stayed through the whole thing watching, and if you guys watched it live, I really appreciate that. And if you're watching it live or not live, but recorded after this or listening on podcast, you can find my stuff, Steve Billington Fishing, all over Facebook, YouTube, all that. But definitely make sure you go check out Driftwood Outdoors. There's 300 something episodes there in the podcast, and you guys definitely need to go give it a listen and check out their different stuff. And I really appreciate you coming on, man. This was cool. It For a
Yeah.
smaller podcast, it was almost kind of a Hail Mary. Like I said at the beginning, it's like a new record guy getting Britney Spears or Taylor
Uh,
Swift or something. But
no,
it meant a lot to me that you came on and did it with me, and it was a lot of fun.
it means a lot to me. And I'm so happy for you, man, with the wedding coming up. That's exciting. And the
Thanks, man.
move and like all that good stuff. So happy about you reconnecting with your dad. Like great, great positive stuff to share. So thanks.
Yeah, it's a good time to be alive right now, man, and I'm glad I could share it with everybody. So,
Awesome. Well, best of
all right,
luck and stay in touch, man. Let's go
will do,
fishing.
man. Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.